Hi, today we're going to make lemon and ginger scones and lemon curd as promised. Lemon curd is going to be made in the microwave, the lemon and ginger scones are not. Now this is just a pre-cookery bit because I want to show you one or two things that I use that you may or may not use but you might find useful. So the first thing is grating my lemons. I use a plane grater, plane as in carpenter's plane. If you haven't seen one of these, they are absolutely marvellous. It's sharp as anything. Do not get your fingers on it. Much better than a normal grater because it's easier to get the stuff out than those box graters. And they're very fine. You can grate cheese, particularly good for parmesan. You can grate nutmeg. You can grate lemons and oranges. So really recommend one of these. Freely available, not freely, easily available in Dunelm. Click and collect, and not terribly expensive. My first one, believe it or not, came from America. I was on holiday in America, was in a random shop and saw this and thought, oh, I really like that. Nowadays I doubt I could get it through customs, but I did then. Bought my first one home and then found, it's called a microplane, then found you could buy them over here, so now I have two and I love them. So that's the first thing. The second thing to introduce you to, which I'll tell you about, is one of these. I use this to rub in. When it says rub in the fat and the flour, I always use this. Simply because my mum did. She didn't like getting her hands all mucky, and I actually have quite long nails at the moment, it's a bit horrible. And I use this. It's really effective, again, quite cheap. I do have lots of equipment, but I don't recommend you buying lots and lots of equipment. But if you're not very good at making pastry and scones, you might find this easier. I was put off rubbing in by hand when a friend of mine who was a teacher, they used to pay for the children who couldn't afford to do the cooking. They used to buy the ingredients for them. So she took the ingredients in for this girl, who then gave her the pie she'd made. Obviously she said she could take it home, but she said, would you like it, miss? And she said, no, it's fine. And she said, oh, I love making pastry, miss. Gets your hands really clean, done it? So since then we use one of these. We do not use our hands, although mine are clean. And that's just what I wanted to tell you first. Before we start cooking, get all your ingredients ready for the lemon curd over in a corner here. So I've got my butter and my sugar in there. I'm going to grate my lemons and put the juice in. And so that will all be ready, so then I can concentrate on the scones, and once they're cooking, we can crack on with the lemon curd. Okay, so that's where we're up to now. I'm just going to pause this a moment and carry on in a tick. I just thought of something I forgot to say. In the lemon curd recipe, if you're preparing all your ingredients ahead of cooking, as requested, it says 2 well-beaten eggs. Now, previously I said that if you're beating your eggs, it's to incorporate air into the mixture, so use an electric mixer. In this case, you're not. You just want them well beaten. I'm just using a bouillon whisk, you could use a fork. They just need to be well beaten, but you're not trying to get lots of air in the mixture, so don't feel you've got to get your electric mixer out. This is more than adequate. A fork would have done. Okay, thank you. I'm going to pause this again. I keep thinking of things to tell you. I'm sure you all know, but make sure if they're waxed lemons that you wash them before you use them. And if they're unwaxed, you're fine, but they're more expensive. And when you're grating them, make sure that you stop before you get any of the white pith in, because that's very bitter. And that's where a good grater comes in handy, because it will enable you to grate finely, as I'm doing with my wonderful microplane. Now, this is my mother's recipe. I've been making it since I was very young. And she used to peel the lemon peel off, put it in, and then take it out at the end. So you got all the flavour, but you didn't actually have the bits of peel in. However, I like it as lemony as you can get it, and I think it's much nicer with the peel in. So you can have a go and see what you think, but I think this is really a much nicer version. Sorry, Mum, but I do think I prefer this. And you will see that there's lemon on the back of my grater. And what I just do when I've finished doing all the lemons, I'm quite bored with this now, when I've finished doing all the lemons, what I do is I just get a pastry brush pastry brush, and I just swoosh the rest off with a pastry brush and make sure it all goes in so we don't waste any of that lovely lemony flavour. So as you can see, none of the white zest, pith has been taken off, just all the lemon zest. Okay, I hope I haven't forgotten anything else. I'll just pause you again. Okay, let's go with our scones, shall we? So I've got my butter and flour in my bowl. I'm going to add the sugar in a moment, but first I'm going to rub it in. And I'm just going to use this, as I say, if you want to use your fingers, please do, or 2 knives, you can separate it with, chop it through with 2 knives. Oh, this, which is, it was $5 or $6.99 from Dunelm or Amazon, can't remember, but it's called a pastry blender if you're looking for it. It took me ages to work out what to call it. I tried all sorts of things, and we ended up with pastry blender. I think it's made by Tala, but anyway, $5 or $6.99, it wasn't very dear, and very, very useful. So, just do this until it's rubbed in, get the big lumps off and start again, until you've got breadcrumbs. Now, as I told you, I buy my pint of milk and freeze it in 4 little pots, which have 1/4 pint in each. So I've defrosted my 1/4 pint of milk, and put it in a measuring jug. Stop throwing flour everywhere. Right, I haven't put an apron on actually, that's why I'm throwing flour everywhere. If I had an apron on, I wouldn't, my mother would be so cross with me. Right, there we are. So that is our rubbed in mixture. I'm going to add the sugar and just stir that through. Now, I haven't got this ready, like I told you to, because I want to show you. I use Sainsbury's ginger. You can buy it chopped. I never have, because it's dearer and I can't really see the point. It doesn't take much chopping. And then I know what size it is. I don't know how big or small the chopped stuff is. So, if you bought that, you can tell me. So when you cut this up, I just cut each ball, it's 4 balls, makes about 2 tablespoons. I just cut it into 4 slices and then in half, because you don't want it really small. When you're eating them, it's nice to come across a chunk of ginger. The first time I made them, I cut it really small, and the feedback I got from my testing people was, can't really taste the ginger. So I now like to keep it quite big. So I just cut them in quite big chunks. It is of course extremely sticky because it's in syrup. So each ball in about 4 slices, and then in about 3, and then in half. So they end up about the size of a raisin or a sultana. Which brings me to my next point. If you don't like ginger, could have a bit of trouble with some of my recipes. However, this is a good recipe. If you don't like ginger, you can still make it. Now, my ideal swaps would be cranberries, which would be lovely in this, dried cranberries, or glacé cherries, or of course you could just use raisins or sultanas. I mean, you don't have to make fancy scones, but I mean, raisin and lemon scones would be lovely as well. As I say, it's just, I think everybody put their hand up and went yum when I suggested ginger, so hopefully you're all going to enjoy them. But you can make them, I mean, if you've got someone coming who doesn't like ginger. One of my very good friends doesn't like ginger, which I'm still friends with her, which is quite good of me. So that's how your ginger's powdered up, and it's roughly 2 tablespoons, okay? But I wanted to show you because I wanted to talk about the size of it, and hopefully you can see. Bring that over there. Can you see? It's about the size of a sultana. So don't chop it really funny. I've now got to wash because I'm sticky as anything. So excuse this. Now, when I made scones as a child, we always made scones on a Sunday afternoon for tea, because one had tea in those days. I am that old. And The reason we had scones was because the milk was just going off because we didn't have a milk delivery from Saturday morning until Monday, and at one point we didn't have a fridge, so we had a larder and a cooled shelf, a marble shelf, but we used to make scones to use up the milk that was a bit unhappy rather than really bad, a bit unhappy. So in this recipe you're actually going to make your milk curdle. And so I'm going to show you what you do with that. I have my milk measured in my measuring jug, and into the milk you put your lemon, rind and juice. You're going to see me grate another lemon, which is a bit boring, isn't it? You put your rind into your mixture. So grate, grate, grate again. Getting a really strong right arm doing this today. Grate your lemon, and then you're going to put the juice and the ginger into your milk, and of course the lemon juice is going to slightly curdle the milk, which is fine. As I say, it's I do think that the whole milk makes a difference. We actually only have skimmed milk. We never have anything else in the house, which is why I buy it specially for this, because I make these quite regularly. And if I'm making something else, I'm making a sauce and I want it to taste particularly nice, I often use whole milk, because it is much better, there is no doubt. But try not to say it too often. There we are, there's my lemon rind, all grated. And there's my pastry brush. Brush it all off my grater, my plane into my. So the lemon rind is in there, the sugar, the flour, all in there ready. And now you're going to squeeze this lemon. Over here, by the way, while you were paused, I've got my lemon juice and rind for my lemon curd. So I'm going to just one of my lemons was full of pips and one had none at all, which is completely bizarre because they came out of the same net of lemons. So I'm now going to cut up another lemon for the scones, and this one has no pips at all, which is wonderful. And I think you'll find you just need 1 tablespoon of juice. Now, if you look it up on Google, it will tell you that, and I'm going to prove it to you, half a lemon is about 1 tablespoon. There's a little bit left. So I'm going to leave that over there. When I was a child, my mother used to save the lemons from lemon marmalade, which she used to make, and lemon curd. And when she was washing my hair, she used to rub it with these in the hopes it would bring out blonde highlights in my rich shade of mouse hair. It didn't, by the way, so don't inflict it on your girls, because it hurts so much. You wouldn't believe how much it hurts when she's rubbing it with lemon. But there you go. Such was life in the bad old days. So I put my lemon juice into my milk, and the milk's starting to slightly curdle. I'm going to add the ginger to that as well. Into there. Like so. Now I'm going to clear the decks of it, because we're going to roll this out. Sorry, my tablet's booping in the background, because people are obviously trying to get a hold of me this morning. You're going to add your liquid into a well in the middle of this, like so, and stir it up. And I hope you kept your flour out, as I have, because you want it to roll this out, except, just to contradict myself, you're not going to roll it, you're just going to pat it out. It doesn't need rolling, you just need to bring it all together in your bowl into a nice soft dough. If you've been a bit over generous with your milk and it's a bit soggy, add a bit of flour. If it's a bit dry and it won't stick together, add a bit more milk. That's the answer. Just pop that in there. So I've got a cutter here, and this is the famous conversation we had last week. You need this to be, and it says, and I quote, 2 centimetres thick. How you gauge 2 centimetres is entirely up to you. If you use a ruler, like a school ruler. It has a bit on the end. I'll get my school ruler if I'm going to show you. It has a bit on the end before it starts, which is about 5 mil. So 2 centimetres is that much. It is less than an inch, but it's quite thick. It is quite thick. So you do want these quite thick. Get my knife, which I can't see. I'm going to get my knife, which is in for brushing up. Get my knife, because I have just had toast and ginger curd for my breakfast, which was delicious. Scrape that all off there. I'm going to take this out. And you know what I'm going to say? I'm going to get my spatula. You must be used to it by now. Get my spatula. God, I love a spatula. Get all of the mixture out. And just using the flour that you've got out there to on your worktop or your board, I mean whatever you've got, I use my worktop. You just pat it out to your 2 centimetres thick. Now bear in mind this mixture is only supposed to make 6 scones, so it really is quite thick, and then you cut it out. Now they say 6mm rounds. Now this is 8mm, and that's a shame because that's my favourite cutter. But this one is 6, which is, if you're old-fashioned like me, about 2.5 inches. So that's the size you want, and you're only going to get 6 out of here. So 1, you will get more, promise. 1. I've lined my baking sheet with parchment. I love baking parchment. I use it to line everything. If I'm cooking chips or oven chips or fish in the oven, chicken in the oven, I line everything with it, even if I'm roasting something, because it just stops things sticking, and it means you can lift them out and freeze them. 3, 4. And re-knead very gently. You don't want to knock it about too much. Do it a little bit more. 5, 6. And here is the knobbly bit, which you can eat at the end as your prize, but actually it's going to make, I think I'm going to make a 7th and a knobbly bit. Even better, so I get 2 to eat. There's my little knobbly bit on the side, and there's your scones. So I'm just going to brush those with some milk, and it says plus extra for brushing, but I haven't got any extra because I just did a 1/4 pound. So I'm going to brush them with my skimmed milk. That won't make any odds, as long as it's got, you could always brush it with egg if you wanted to, but I think milk's plenty. I'll just get my milk, excuse me going round here, you can't see me. I shall reappear as if by magic with some milk, and a little bit in there left from my frozen milk. There. And just brush the top of these with milk. You've got your oven heated to 120. Now when I was young, we made the scones every week. We used to make them and bake them at number 8, gas mark 8, my mum was a gas girl. Gas mark 8 at the very top of the oven. Well, of course, things are different nowadays because we have fan-assisted ovens, and you can put things anywhere in the oven and they'll cook well. These are only cooked at number 6, and they're cooked for longer. So I'm going to pop those in at number 6, 200 to those of you. And it says that they will take 18 to 20 minutes. Now, my mum and I used to cook them for sort of 10 minutes, 8-10 minutes. So I'm going to make, oh, and I've got a new timer. This is my new super duper timer, which my lovely husband bought me. So I'm going to set the timer. I'm going to look at them at the lower time. You can always put them back in. You can't undo it. It's a bit like cutting your hair. You can cook them for a bit longer, but you can't undo it if you burn them. So that's your scones. And now, while they're cooking, before we peel up, we're going to start on the lemon curd. So everything is in the bowl, as we said. Now, the conventional way to make lemon curd is to put it in a double boiler. and stand and stir it. And it's lovely, but it's a faff, especially if you haven't got a double boiler. You've got to put a bowl over boiling water. We have a microwave. So what you're going to do is you're going to pop that in your microwave to melt the butter and sugar together. Now, as you know, I have an 850 watt microwave. You may not have. It does depend on your microwave how long this will take. But the lovely thing with the microwave is you can keep adding a minute and a minute and a minute incrementally, and it won't hurt at all. You can take things out and put them back in, which you can't do in the oven so much. So you can just give it a go, see how long it takes, and have a wooden spoon ready to stir it. Meanwhile, I'm going to have a look here at my laptop. See, I think I should employ a little person like Nigella, don't you? Unfortunately, my little person like Nigella has, and my camera person, is in the other room doing U3A things. So, joining two new members actually, so we can't cross with him, can we? So, I'm going to just move this, I'll clear it all up later, but I want to be able to have this ready. So, my eggs are there beaten ready, as I told you. I will, however, wash my hands. So, ready, so that when the sugar and the butter is dissolved, I can just pop the eggs in, and then I'll do, then we'll cook it a bit more. Okay? Right, now I did that for 2 minutes, and as you can see, it's starting to melt, but it hasn't melted completely. If you give it a good stir, the lumps of butter, I mean, I didn't cut my butter up, which is perhaps just lazy of me. If you cut the butter up smaller, into small pieces, it will obviously dissolve quicker. But as you can see, that's dissolving in the residual heat, because of course, don't forget, when you take things out of the microwave, they carry on cooking. So this carries on heat coming out of it, and it's just dissolving that. I can still hear a bit of scrapey butter on the bottom. So probably I'll give it another 30 seconds. That really is all it will take. The cameraman's answered the phone, luckily. So I haven't got to disappear into... Oh, it all happens here, you know. Right. So, my washing up's over there. My washing up's over. It's all going to go in my lovely new dishwasher, which I'm having the old first world problem of finding it hard to pack in the dishwasher. Now, here's my beaten eggs. They're going to go in the mixture. Now you should have strained those into the mixture, which I completely forgot to do, but should be fine. There you go. There's your egg. So you give that a good old stir. You need to beat it, but you need to get it very well combined. And then you're going to put it back in your microwave. You're going to put it back in your microwave, and you're going to put it on medium, not high. I melted it on high. Do it for 3 minutes on high, and while that's happening, you put a plate or a saucer in your freezer. The reason you're doing that, which all of you who've ever made jam or marmalade, or indeed lemon curd, will know, is to check when it's set. And if you put it on a cold plate, it will show you very quickly. With jam, you have to get a wrinkle. I can't make jam. You have to get a wrinkle. With lemon curd, you just see that it is set and it's not moving. Now, this only makes a little amount, which is great because it doesn't keep particularly well. You have to keep it in the fridge because we're using no preservatives of any sort, so you've got to keep it in the fridge. I recently threw out dozens of jam jars which I'd collected over the months, so filling a cupboard. Oh, I can't bother with these, they all went in the recycle, which was a bad idea. So you need to keep it in something. If you have empty jam jars and you can sterilise those, that's fine, but it doesn't have to be in jam jars. And in fact, because it makes little amounts, I tend to store it in small amounts. That way I can give it away, which is really good, and I can take a little bit out at a time. So you can put it in whatever you like. I've been putting mine into ramekin dishes, and I've given it all away. And I've got some in the fridge. I'll show you how I've stored it. I've got these little dishes which is supposed to put a portion of a sauce in, mayonnaise or whatever, and little baby ramekins, and I put it in that. I put one lot in a jar. I did have an empty jar of ginger actually, which I put it in, but that's an ideal thing to keep it in. Cling film over it, keep it in the fridge, and it will keep for quite some while. It's delicious on toast, on scones, on bread, on ice cream, or just eaten with a spoon while you stand by the fridge. I can recommend that. It's lovely on ice cream, and it is just a gorgeous thing. You can make a lemon roulade and put it in the middle of that, a Swiss roll, put it in that, in an ordinary Victoria sponge, anything like that. It really adds a certain je ne sais quoi. I wonder perhaps I ought to move my camera around and show you the scones rising in the oven. They're rising quite high for Jan Elliott. I hope she's watching this. They are rising. But I'm going to show you my lemon curd. Now it's starting to thicken. Can you see around the edges? It's starting to thicken, but it's not ready yet. So I'm going to just stir it up and pop it back in. Good old stir, get all the bits in. Then I'm going to put it back in for another 3 minutes. Now, what I omitted to do was to strain the eggs into the lemon curd. You do need to strain the eggs into the lemon curd because sometimes in the eggs there's little bits in the white which you don't want in your lemon curd. So you will have to see, I'm going to have to pull those out afterwards, but shows you I'm not that brilliant, doesn't it? My scones are looking really good, and they're, oh I forget, I've got my new time. They've got 5 minutes to go and they're really rising up. I'm very tempted to move my camera and show you, but maybe I won't. Okay. So here's my lemon curd. It's really getting quite thick now, it's bubbling away there. And I think it might be nearly done. I'm just going to give it another minute. Then I'm going to pop some on my cold plate out of the freezer and see what we think. And meanwhile, the scones are looking fabulous, and they've only got a couple of minutes to go, and I think they'll be done. I've turned them round because despite all the claims of my fan oven, the ones at the back were getting browner than the ones at the front. Such is life. So I've just turned them round so that the ones at the back get a bit more brown. A bit more brown? A bit browner. Now these freeze beautifully, so if you don't want to eat 6 at a time, which I might be able to, but if you are on your own, or like Julie has a husband who can't eat these with gluten in, eat 2 and put 4 in the fridge, in the freezer would be my answer. When they come out again, when you want to eat them again, just pop them in an oven just for a couple of minutes just to warm them through. Defrost them and then pop them in to get warm, and they'll be much nicer, just refresh them a bit. But they'll be much nicer like that. So we've got everything's going to kick off. We've got the lemon curd's going to come out, the scone's going to want to come out, and I'm going to be going in 2 directions. Might even have to get the camera crew involved, but I'll try not to. So just wait for the lemon curd. I'm just going to get the plate out of the freezer, which is in top of the left freezer. Camera crew's on board. Right freezer, sorry. I don't know my left from my right. Okay. So here I have a lovely chilli plate, and it will show me if this is set or not. And it's yeah. To leave that and see if it's got a setting point. Now, I had these little dishes which we had candles in them, and I've got hundreds of them. We have them for an event, but actually I've put them all through the dishwasher a couple of times. They're sparkly clean, and I'm going to put my lemon curd in those because they're an ideal size. So what did I tell you? Lemon curd and scones together. It's a good use of the time, really. And look at those. How gorgeous are they? Well, I think they look fabulous. What I haven't done is get a cooling tray out, which was foolish. I'll get one now. And I'll pop those all in my cooling tray. And because I've used my baking parchment, of course, no sticking, no nonsense, and the added bonus, no tray to wash. Just throw the paper away and it's job done, which is my kind of cooking. So I'll pop that just back in it out of the way. I'll turn my oven off, which will continue to drone for ages. And we'll have a look at the lemon curd. And you'll see it's set. It's not moving. Oh, it tastes wonderful. And it's ready to go into your whatever you've got. Little containers or jars or whatever. Leave it in those until it's completely cold, and then either, if it's a jam jar, put a greaseproof paper and a top on it, or if it's in these, I just put cling film over the top and store them in the fridge. So there we have it. This is the one I'm going to eat as my reward for making them. And as you can see, we've just got 7 lovely scones. Thank you very much.